JWL Sports, where we review all the best sports clips from around the country. Now, you're probably wondering, why should I watch over here instead of over there? Because over there, they don't care about what you have to say. They say this all the time. They talk down to us. They think we're just a bunch of clowns on YouTube, Twitter. But I think it's the opposite. I think we know exactly what we're talking about. So I read every single comment. So if you think what I'm saying is the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard, let me know in the comments below. If you think what I'm saying is the most amazing thing, then definitely please let me know. Either way, let's get into some discussions, let's get into some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and it's turning into something truly, truly special. And I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. And I think we're well on our way to doing it. So without further ado, let's get to it. We're watching a clip of First Things First, where Nick Wright is doing his all-time QB mountain. As I'm sure you know at this point, he does his like Mahomes mountain, and then he did like the Mahomes like playoff mountain, and now they're doing the all-time QB mountain. This is going to be interesting because I'm curious if Nick actually puts Patrick Mahomes at the top or Tom Brady, and there's a couple other players, so there's not really much to say before we watch this clip, so we'll just get right into it and see what he does.
Mountain, cold and unforgiving again, same mountain, but also has a great memory. As we look at today's special all-time edition of Mahomes Mountain, I'll tee you up with a question.
Yeah.
Any chance Rich Gannon is on it?
Rich Gannon missed the cut. Let me tell you, because this is Super Bowl era. So there is no Unitas, there's no star. This is basically post-merger, actually, 1970 to now.
Okay.
So other guys who just barely missed out, Warren Moon, Big Ben, Jim Kelly, those guys did not make it because we have a new person on the 15 greatest quarterbacks ever list. Reveal the bottom of the mountain, if you will. Lamar Jackson.
Let's go!
Has to be
Pretty
on
good.
there. He has 2 league MVPs now. He at least has 1 great playoff game, and he checks the boxes. Terry Bradshaw, 1 MVP, 4 Super Bowl championships. Kurt Warner, 2 MVPs.
All Super Bowl champions, though.
3 Super Bowl appearances, correct, and 1 championship. Breeze, 1 championship, bunch of records. Aikman, 3 rings. Level 4. Rodgers, 4 MVPs, 1 title. Favre, 3 MVPs, 2 appearances, 1 title. Roger Staubach, 4 appearances, no MVP. Does he have an MVP? I don't remember. I don't think so. 2 rings. And Steve Young, who I think's criminally underrated. 2 league MVPs, 1 championship, and maybe the best Super Bowl anyone's ever played. Row 3. The truly hollowed ground. Joe Montana, 4 Super Bowls, obviously 2 MVPs. Dan Marino doesn't have the accolades of the others, but he's basically like the anti-Brock Purdy, like the ultimate eye test guy. John Elway, 5 Super Bowl appearances, 2 rings, and MVP. And then
I didn't.
the Mount Rushmore, along with Montana, Patrick Mahomes and Peyton Manning. Mahomes, 2 MVPs, 3 Super Bowl appearances, 2 championships, and we're going to add to that probably here in a few weeks. Peyton Manning, 5 MVPs, 4 appearances, 2 rings. And then at the top, with cartoonish numbers, Tom Brady, 3 league MVPs, 10 Super Bowl appearances, and 7 rings. That are your 15 greatest quarterbacks, Greg Jennings, of the modern era. And Lamar with the 2nd MVP with 10 greatest quarterbacks, Greg Jennings.
All right, so I just want to talk about this real fast because I don't have too much to say. I want to see them unpack it first. But I wanted to point out, I think it's really hard to start comparing different eras like this, like Bradshaw to Brady, right? To Marino to Lamar. It's just such different style of play, and the games were called. I mean, even Bradshaw. I mean, you look at Bradshaw, right? He was obviously super successful in the NFL as a quarterback, but then like look at his games, look at his numbers, look at his completion percentage, look at all that type of stuff. Like it's not necessarily that impressive. Even Aikman, like that's why the game has just changed so significantly. It's almost like unrecognizable. Go back and watch games from like the 80s and the 70s. It's just you're just like you don't really know what you're watching. It's a different sport entirely. And it's the same thing with basketball. It's all sports minus baseball really. And so I think that just becomes a little bit more difficult. And I think that's why you can't just go based off of numbers. You can't go based off of MVPs. Because right, Brady's winning all these Super Bowls. He's the GOAT, but then he only has like a few MVPs. It's kind of like the Michael Jordan or LeBron James argument. It's like theoretically, shouldn't these guys both have like 20 MVPs? Right? Like LeBron James, I don't have any idea how many MVPs he has, but it probably should be way more than whatever the heck it is. And so that's why I don't like using those accolades. And even records. Like Tom Brady has some of these records because the guy's played for 90 years, right? Like even if let's take an average quarterback, an average starting quarterback. I don't know. I feel like any name that I'm going to say, you guys are going to tell me how elite they are. But like Russell Wilson, okay? If that dude played for all the years that Tom Brady plays, he would have not as high as Brady, but he would still be passing a lot of other players in the record books. And it's not because he's just so unbelievably amazing. It's just a longevity game, which does add to Brady's argument. But I would just say that I do stand by this, that it's just really hard to compare different eras. And I think if you really want to try to judge these players, you got to really watch. Because when I think of the best, I'm like, who's the actual best in terms of their quarterback play? And I'm not talking about who wins the most. Because what if Brady, didn't the Patriots didn't get that interception? And what if the Falcons didn't drop the ball and allow that comeback to be? That's 2 Super Bowls gone from Brady. He has 5 now, still obviously a ton. I'm trying to think of any other random Super Bowls that he could have lost. Against the Eagles, when the Eagles were in the Super Bowl with Andy Reid, Tom Brady, that was Spygate. They were caught cheating. They videotaped the Eagles practice. If you don't think that that's a benefit, then I just don't have anything to say to you. That is obviously a benefit. That is obviously cheating. It's like no question, right? And that game was like settled by a field goal. And the Eagles also had this crazy play where, God, they had such garbage wide receivers. Thrash and Pinkston is so bad. And one of them, I forget who, fumbled the ball into the end zone that then was a touchback when they were about to score a touchdown. Like a crazy, crazy play. So really my point is that Tom Brady easily could have lost that Super Bowl as well. A lot of things have to go in your way for you to be considered, for you to win. And that's just what needs to happen. No matter who you are, things need to go, in your favor. And again, I think Tom Brady is the GOAT, but my real point is that he gets such GOAT status because he has 7 rings, not so much because they're just like, look at the way he drops back, look at his mechanics, look at his throws, look at his accuracy, look at this, that, it's just not so much as that. It's like him being a leader, him winning, him making his comeback wins and stuff like that. But for many years, people thought Peyton and Rodgers were better quarterbacks, like just actual pure quarterback play, and I think some people still believe that, like, say, like Aaron Rodgers is a better quarterback, right? He throws a better deep ball, more accurate, things of that nature. So, and again, I'm not going to, debate that or argue that, who's necessarily the best or the GOAT, because I just don't know, or I mean, in terms of this mountain, because I just don't know how you can compare that. Because again, like, how do you compare Aikman to Lamar? How do you compare, Bradshaw to Mahomes? I mean, it's completely different skill sets, and they do completely different things, and they did completely different things to help out their team. What Tom Brady did for his team is way different than what Lamar does. What Rodgers did for his teams are completely different than what Troy Aikman did. So I just think it becomes kind of tricky, honestly.
Things of the modern era, and Lamar with the second MVP, which I am assigning him because we all believe he's going to get it, has to be on that list.
I like it. I'm just curious, like looking at that list. Patrick Mahomes is to the left of Peyton Manning. You sure it's not?
It's not left to right, guys.
Are you
I don't know how many times to tell you it's not left to
positive?
right.
He got Mahomes second.
I don't know how many times I have to tell you guys. I do happen to have Mahomes second, but it could have.
Sorry. Because that's the other thing that I want to say. We put up Lamar there, and I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but like, do we say that Lamar Jackson is a better quarterback than Joe Burrow? Like, Joe Burrow's had the unfortunate history of like being banged up and injured, but same as Lamar Jackson. But if we take Lamar Jackson's best year and Joe Burrow's best year, I mean, Lamar Jackson did have that crazy year, obviously, when he was the unanimous MVP. But I guess, like, if you're talking about someone's career trajectory and what they both have done and the successes that they have had in the past, both playoffs and regular season, if you had to choose between Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow and you knew that both were going to be healthy, no injury issues, who would you pick? I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's I think a lot of people would say it's 50-50. I think people the reason people I think are sleeping on Joe Burrow right now is because he didn't really get the ball out this season, right? He got injured. And so when he did play, and the problem was that he played injured, so he didn't look too great. And then he got legitimately injured. So people are, like it's a tough situation, but Joe Burrow is that dude. Make no mistake about it. And Josh Allen too Josh Allen is so elite. I'm not saying that Josh Allen should be up there necessarily, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's what he can do. He can do things that some of these other players can't do at all. So again, if Josh Allen actually has the appropriate weapons around him and a legit, good, true, bona fide head coach or legit, true, bona fide offensive coordinator, like what if we just take, Josh Allen's, Brian Daboll years, or it was a year or years, I forget if it was 1 or 2 years. What happens to that? Is he now is he better than some of these guys? Does he win MVPs? So I don't know. It's just interesting to me.
Tanner's fourth.
When I send the graphics, I don't even tell them left to right. I was like, hey, here are the rows, and they surprise me with it. I'm not.
Let me see the mountain.
Yeah.
First, I do think Staubach should be ahead of Favre. All right. But I'm still gonna have Montana. If Mahomes win this Super Bowl, I'd put him ahead of Montana. But right now, Montana with his 4 Super Bowls, I think should be second. So I think it's Brady 1, Montana 2, Mahomes 3.
Oh, so you have Mahomes. So you have Montana ahead of Peyton as well.
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
I don't.
yes.
Okay, that's fair. All right. So you have Montana.
Montana won his first Super Bowl. Dwight Clark, with all due respect. And no running back of any great significance.
Yeah, but Montana so here's the interesting thing. If you go back and look at all of the guys, oddly except for Patrick, all of them, for their first 1 or 2 Super Bowls of the 4 legends, Brady, Peyton, Mahomes, and Montana, they had at least 2 and usually 3 downright bad playoff games on the run to win the Super Bowl that the defense saved them in it. Patrick hasn't had that. In Montana, Peyton was bad, had 3 touchdowns, 7 picks in the postseason the year they won.
Peyton changed the game. It's hard to.
And so Montana won a couple games with the defense shutting him out when he had more touch.
Did you consider putting Caleb on the mountain?
I don't want to.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's just like it's a tricky debate, honestly, because you're not seeing these players obviously compete against each other. They're playing in different eras, different teams, different play designs, just different philosophies, different everything. But it is, these are the conversations that we'll always have. And it is actually kind of interesting because Colin Cowherd pointed this out, and I really agree with it. And I think it's smart. Is that he talks about baseball, how much baseball lives in the past, right? You people still talk about Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Mickey Mantle, and it's just like still prize. And they look at these records and it's so iconic and this and that. And because of that, baseball gets stuck in the past. Football, it's like, I don't know, what is the record for the most touchdown passes? I have no idea. Who has the most, receptions, completions? What are the numbers? You can probably guess some of the players, but what are the actual numbers, right? And in baseball, everyone knew, the home runs, 60, 61, 62, and whatever, and all this type of stuff. And because of it, you get stuck in the past, and people still to this day are going back and forth between LeBron James and Michael Jordan. Who's the GOAT? Who's this? Who's that? And with football, you don't really do that. I mean, prior to Tom Brady becoming the GOAT, that's when people that's when most people even learned what the heck the word GOAT meant. And I feel like when GOAT got popular, God, I don't know if it was I think it was the Super Bowl after the Eagles. So what was that, 2018? I believe. I feel like that's when people started really using the term GOAT more, or at least it went more mainstream to where people like my mom would know what GOAT means and stuff like that. But it was just not a big competition, a big conversation that people were having back and forth. Who's the GOAT, quarterback? Who's the best? Who's the best? Who's the best? And then Tom Brady obviously just winning all these Super Bowls. It was like, well, Tom Brady's the GOAT. Tom Brady's the best. And then as luck would have it, Mahomes was obviously entered the league and then became elite right on the tail end of Tom Brady. So naturally that now became this conversation of well, is actually Patrick Mahomes the GOAT? Is Patrick Mahomes going to be able to pass Tom Brady? Can he win 7 Super Bowls? Can he win, 8 Super Bowls? What's the story here? If he plays unbelievably well and surpasses Tom Brady but only wins 4 Super Bowls, is he the GOAT? So it became kind of this more conversation, and I hope we don't get lost in it too much, because I think it pulls away from football. Because what's so great about football is that they don't get stuck in the past. No one's really talking about Joe Montana. No one's talking about Dan Marino or Troy Aikman. In fact, the average fan, outside of some of you super fans, you guys don't know anything really about those players. I mean, seriously, the average 25-year-old, 30-year-old fan, unless you really saw some of those players play, you're just not really talking about them or thinking about it. But like, for basketball, everyone knows who LeBron James is. I mean, everyone knows who Michael Jordan is, right? Everyone knows Wilt scored 100 points. Everyone knows Babe Ruth, even if you've never even played baseball before, the whole pointing to the outfield, right? You know those things. Football, a lot of things get forgotten. No one really talks about Jerry Rice. Seriously, no one talks about Jerry Rice. I mean, like, outside of you watching a game and they say, wow, this wide receiver is so amazing, he's looking like Jerry Rice out there, right? Like, outside of some of those throwaway lines and things like that. But football doesn't live in the past, and it's what's new. Tom Brady's been retired, and does anyone say that the game misses him? No one's talking about him, right? If LeBron James retired, it would be like, the league would feel it. It would be like, there's, people don't know who to root for, and people don't know who to root against, because that's what makes LeBron James so popular, is because people both want to see him win and also want to watch him lose. So, and I think football, and it's really kind of the whole thing that football prides itself in, right? It's all about the shield. It's all about the NFL. It's all about, the team name and not the jersey name, not the name on the back of the jersey. And because of that, football continues to stay fresh and relevant and exciting and interesting, and you're not beholden, and that's what's so great, because in a lot of times the NBA Finals, or the World Series or whatever for that matter, you do need a lot of these stars. It's an NBA Finals game back and forth is more interesting with LeBron James versus Steph Curry than, say, even the Sixers versus Oklahoma City Thunder. Like, that's not really exciting. That's not the case with football. Okay, a Detroit Lions versus the Ravens would be an incredibly exciting Super Bowl. We don't need Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. We don't need Joe Burrow in the Super Bowl, for that matter. And so to me, that's why football gets really is really exciting, because it's not so heavily dependent on some of these players and some of these big names. And I think it really goes a long way. And so I hope we don't slide into this constant, who's the GOAT, who's not. Let's keep talking about these players forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Because again, just like Tom Brady was the GOAT and Patrick Mahomes was the GOAT, it's not hard to imagine that in 10, 15 years, another player enters the league and is like, again, it's going to happen. You're going to have a team that drafts a quarterback that is so elite, and he's elite from start to finish of his career, and he gets drafted by a team that really has already complete weapons, a great offensive coach, and they're going to win 3 Super Bowls in a row. It's just going to happen. I mean, I'm not telling you it's going to happen next year or the year after, but it's going to happen. Someone is going to surpass LeBron James. You think LeBron James is just the end of human evolution, that no other player is going to be bigger, stronger, faster than him, or just as durable as him? It's going to happen, whether it's 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years. So the constant debate of who's the GOAT, who's this, who's that, I'm not always interested in that conversation personally, because records, like they always say, records are made to be broken, and they will, as long as the rules don't change in a way that stop them from being broken, which is definitely possible, right? They can change rules back to make it less defense, or to make it less offense oriented, and now some of these passing records are more difficult to break and stuff like that. But that's the way I view it. I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts on this one. Who do you think's the GOAT? Do you think we should be having GOAT conversations, or do you think it just pulls away from the overall product of the NFL? Let me know in the comments below. And please don't forget to subscribe. We are building an amazing community here, and I truly would love to see you part of it. And please don't forget to give this video a like. It really, really helps with the visibility and the algorithm, and I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much, and see you next time.